everyone, I'm Becky,
And I'm Sarah.
and we're doing Bickering book reviews from a proper social distance. And today we are talking about You Don't Live Here by Robyn Schneider, which I got off of Edelweiss.
Same.
And so this book is about Sasha Bloom, and Sasha Bloom lives really close to a fault line in California. I say in California, are there fault lines? There are fault lines other places. Like, that's the big ones are in California, right?
Yeah.
Because we had an earthquake in Ohio not that long ago.
Yeah, no, there's fault lines everywhere.
Right, that's what I thought. But I always feel like it's plate tectonics. So anyway, so this book is about Sasha. She lives right next to a huge fault line in California, and she's dealt with earthquakes her whole life, but they've never really impacted her. Well, one day she's working at her after-school job at a museum, and a huge earthquake hits, and she has to basically push her way out of the museum. And she goes home, and she finds out that her mother was in a storage room at the salon where she worked, and she was killed in the earthquake. And so her very wealthy grandparents, who had kind of cut her mother off when she had Sasha, come down from Orange County, or come up from Orange County, I'm not completely clear, and they take her back to their life of privilege. And they live in a very expensive house. They have very, fancy things. They join they're a part of a country club, and Sasha kind of has to start to figure out how to deal with this. And her grandmother pushes her to hang out with friends, grandchildren of her grandmother's friends. One of those is Cole, who is charming and beautiful and seems to like her, but there's a little bit of not greatness in that relationship. She makes all these friends, but she's not even sure if she really likes these friends. And then she meets Lily, who lives next door, and she's just drawn to Lily, and she's trying to kind of figure out, she had a boyfriend, but she's also attracted to this girl, and what does that mean? And she also has to fill the expectations of her grandparents, and they want her to be a lawyer, and she wants to study art, and it's just kind of about her finding her way.
I'm going to apologize for this video because they've been cutting my lawn for hours, and they are still cutting the lawn. I don't know what is left to cut out there. I don't. But anyway.
I can't hear it, if that helps.
Okay, well, that's good. I hope nobody can hear it, because I can hear it, and it's driving me nuts, and it's been happening for 3 hours at least.
You don't have that big of a yard.
I know, right? Like, I don't know what's left to cut. Anyway. So I really enjoyed this book. I like how Robyn Schneider highlights these very kind of quirky yet so detailed and interesting and compelling kind of flashpoints. Like at the beginning when the earthquake is going on, she's talking about working in the gift shop at the museum, and there's a kid there that's stealing erasers, and it was just so vivid and well written and well thought out that that stuck with me even after the book. And it was just something so non-relevant to the story, but she's so great at what she does that she can make things like that stick with you.
Well, and that's the thing, when I was reading it, I was 100 pages into it. I remember thinking to myself, I'm I just really like the way she writes. There's a rhythm and something just the way she pieces the words together. And I don't think anybody else completely writes like her. There's a lot of people that are good read-alikes, but she also takes things that are very basic and makes them seem special, if that makes sense. Like this book, she was just living this normal life and this earthquake hits, but she had that one that was about the teens who were in the at the asylum for tuberculosis, which seems I remember I tried to explain it to somebody why they should read it, and I kept saying, and I'm trying to, and they're I don't understand, how is this a compelling story? But once you start reading them, you can't put them down.
Right. No, and the same is true for this one. And she also uses a really high level of vocabulary, but not in a pretentious way. It flows, and it seems she has the tone of voice of teens. Plus, she was bringing in pop culture references that are actually relevant to today's teens in a way that a lot of the other books that we've read recently haven't been able to do to her level.
Well, and I think it was just she has really strong characters, and it makes it
And that's,
easier for
yeah,
you to like get sucked in and like yes, like when Sasha says things, you're like, well, maybe that wouldn't normally work, but the character's so strong, you're like, oh, that's just how she talks.
right.
And I
Well,
think
and
that
no, she has like such strong characters that this I think is also one of like the first books where like I couldn't figure out romantically where this was going to go because there were like three strong characters that I totally would have been great with her getting with at a certain point, and then as it kind of progressed that changed. But I mean, and even the one boy who was problematic, um I still didn't hate him, which I feel weird like not hating him because what he did was so terrible to her, and she still talks to him after he does this terrible thing.
but it kind of makes sense. Like when you see where he's coming from and like he has that moment. I also liked she really kind of explored Lily figuring out her sexuality and is she actually bisexual?
Sasha.
What did I say? Oh, I said Lily. Sasha. Yes, Sasha. Lily was my only slight little glitch with the book. I just felt like the character just was almost like starting to step towards being a manic pixie dream girl. She didn't quite get there, but like I feel like if we had another 50 pages of her, she would have been a manic pixie dream girl.
See, and I wasn't bothered by her. Like, I wasn't bothered by her. Plus, I think she was what the main character needed to kind of come into her truth, I guess.
Look at
So, no, I it worked for me. I love Robyn Schneider books. I will read basically anything she puts out, and I always enjoy them.
I do too. I do. And you know what? They have beautiful covers.
Yeah, and it just took me right now as I'm staring at the cover to realize what the cover means, and I'm like,
Oh,
well, der.
yeah. Well, that was like the beginning of everything. I think was her first book, and that cover was gorgeous with the roller coaster, which
Yeah,
that's wow.
that book, man.
No, I just really enjoy her books. Like she's one of those people. Like I remember, like when I found this book on Edelweiss, I was like, Robyn Schneider has a new book, and you're like, oh, we're reading that, and I was like, yeah.
See,
Um,
but the other thing is though, like I don't necessarily think of her as Prince, but like she's such a great writer. Like, why isn't she Prince?
right. Well, and I think it's because I mean, she tackles the issues, but she doesn't tackle the issues in a way. Prince books are darker. Her books like leave you with hope. Like even when people are dying of tuberculosis, there's like this lightness that makes it enjoyable to read. This is gonna sound weird, but I watched part of a special last night about Gary Marshall, and they said something about how other people like were making TV and movies like to teach, and he felt he was making recess. And sometimes it's like it's kind of like you
Yes,
need like you like recess, you want recess.
yes, yes.
And like I said,
I,
I heard that quote and I'm like, that is such a great quote. And there's so many people that can apply to.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean that makes sense. That makes sense.
Because it
I
is
just I kind
wonderfully
of
written.
wish she gets the recognition that she deserves because
Yeah.
she's a solid author.
Right. No, I enjoy her. And I put her books on display and I do hand them out and try to hand sell them. We should rate it. Our rating
Okay,
system starts at the top with 5 unicorns. We go down to 2 unicorns. If we don't like it, it's a horse.
I'm at 4 unicorns. It was solidly written. The characters were well developed. I would even not have minded spending more time digging into kind of the past and her relationship with her mom and her relationship with her grandparents and even a book about her mom and her grandparents. Like
Oh, that would be a
that.
good book. I also, because I was like, explain the dad more. Like, I was completely happy.
Right.
I feel like we got, which is probably the sign of a good book. I feel like we got a complete story and that everything was tied up, not too neatly, but in a good way. But I would read more.
Right, exactly. Maybe not at the end of the book, but definitely offshoots throughout.
Right.
So.
So that is where we are.
Wait, did you rate it?
Oh, did I? Oh, I don't know if I did. I was at 4 as well. Like, it's a strong book. Like, I literally read it in like 18 hours, and I would have read it quicker than that, but I had to sleep. Um,
Just for the week.
it was fast. The characters were good. There's a lot for a book. Like it kind of like looks like they're trying to sell it as a fluffy book, but there's a lot in there.
Yeah. I don't, and I never consider Robyn Schneider as a fluffy writer.
No.
So I mean, I guess technically, like if you're going like base level, yeah, because it's got like the romance and all that kind of stuff, but it's not a fluffy book.
There's always something a little more in there.
Yeah.
So that is where we are on You Don't Live Here.
All right, see you around.
Bye.